I've had my heart checked and I'm just about ready to go again. I titled my video last night, Supporting Spurs is a Mental Illness, and it is. It's so difficult at times, but it feels good this morning, doesn't it? Into a semi-final and another huge game coming up on Sunday against the league leaders, no less. They'll fancy turning us over, for sure, but they will also know that we'll make loads and loads of chances. It'll be a Christmas cracker. I'll be bringing my thoughts on last night's game, all of Ange's quotes after it, and my prediction for Sunday's big one against Liverpool in today's episode of the Spurred On podcast. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Give this video a like so I can get seen by as many Spurs fans as possible. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already for daily Tottenham content, and also you can become a member. Just £1 a month really helps me to make this daily content for you. All the details how are in the description box below. But let's get started with what I felt I learnt from last night, or what I think we need to do going on as a result of getting into that Carabao Cup semi-final, which was huge for the club, for the fans, for Big Ange Postecoglou, everybody involved. And I want to start, of course, where else could I start but Fraser Forster. And look, he's only being asked to do what the manager wants him to do. And on that basis, I hold no problem with Forster whatsoever. He's saved us so much. Son Heung-min said that in a post-match press conference. Ange Postecoglou gave him so much credit, and I agree. And I think as fans, we need to really get behind Fraser Forster now. This is going to be a huge game against Liverpool, but not just because it's a massive game in the Premier League, but also for Forster's confidence. We need to chant his name. Let's make a chant for him. We need to support him because we need him probably until March, realistically. Seeing yesterday Vicario still on his crutches, I was a bit surprised by that. I thought he might be just in the protective boot and kind of walking on it now, but he's still on his crutches. So we're going to need Fraser Forster in a big way. And we're also, I'm afraid to say for some of you, and let me know how you feel in the comments, let's talk about it, but we're going to need him to play more passes like he did last night, to try and play short passes, because that's the way we play. And I know a lot of people, especially of the slightly older generation, of which I am one, a lot of that older generation just whack it out, just whack it out. But I'd also say, bear in mind yesterday in the last half an hour, and I think with his confidence absolutely on the floor, he was doing the right thing to just hit everything long. But Man United were just recycling the ball incredibly easily, and that's why it was like the Alamo in that last half an hour, and Spurs found it very difficult to break out from Manchester United's press. We didn't really make any chances. We were fortunate to score from that corner, and that's what kind of got us through in the end. So Forster is going to need to keep playing that way. I think the defenders are going to have to take some responsibility, and that was really fascinating as well. I'm not sure if you've seen some of these clips, but Son Heung-min talking very assertively with Archie Gray after the game, and it seemed clear to me that he was saying, you shouldn't have given Fraser Forster that pass. That pass along his own goal line was too difficult to deal with. And the way I look at what happened with that pass, I'm talking about for the second mistake of Forster's, the pass from Archie Gray was coming to him right in the middle of his goal when Forster's on his goal line. So think about the mindset of Forster will have been, do not let this run under my foot. Do not let this run under my foot. So that's his first thought, right? And already Diallo is pressing him at that point. So then when he gets his touch out of his feet, he's then like, okay, for the next couple of milliseconds, okay, I didn't let it run under my feet. And then, okay, what's available? And by the time then he's got that into his head and he's thinking, okay, there's the pass on, Diallo's right there. So I think some responsibility needs to be taken by the defenders. And there was another clip that was interesting of Archie Gray talking to Fraser Forster on the pitch after the game. I think basically a bit of a mea culpa, saying, that was my fault, I gave you a bad pass. And I think the defenders have to be more clear with themselves. If there is no pass on that's going to be good for Forster, who is the person who is the weakest player with the ball at his feet, don't play it there. And there were a few times yesterday where actually we passed it back to Forster. He didn't go long. He then passed it across to maybe Porro. I think it was Porro. And Porro sees there's nothing on for him, so he goes long. Now, in that instance, really Forster could have just gone long. That's what I'm saying. And I get that they're trying to open up the pitch and see if there are better options on. I do get it. But I think really I want the responsibility to fall on the players, the outfield players, the players who do the boxes every game, the box drills, the little drills in tiny little spaces where they're so good at it and they can find passes where there are no passes to be found. Well, in that instance, take a bit more responsibility yourself because you are the better footballer than Fraser Forster. But my key point, let's get behind him. Let's support him. Huge applause for him at the weekend at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Let's get him a chant and let's build his confidence back up because we are going to need him. Next person I want to talk about, Jed Spence. Let me know what you think. Do you think he'll start against Liverpool, Jed Spence? Do you think is he genuinely putting pressure on Udogie and Porro? Or will Anne straight away go back to the kind of tried and trusted? That pass that he played forward for Dominic Solanke, for Solanke's second goal, perfectly weighted pass. Now, listen, we know and we've seen and we've been impressed by the fact that Jed Spence is strong. He's quick. He's a worker bee. His recovery runs backwards are so quick, and he really shows that. But that passing range, I hadn't seen that yet. And that really gives us an extra option, doesn't it? It was a beautifully weighted little dink over the top and just allowed Solanke to hold up the ball and then take it past Martinez. Really made Martinez look like an absolute mug. I'm just so pleased for Jed Spence that he's really showing on the pitch what he's got. I'm intrigued by it all. I'm intrigued by how bad a trainer he must be, or how late he must turn up to training regularly, just on the basis that Daniel Farke said that there were some attitude issues and maybe there were some reports coming out when he was on loan. And also back in the day when he was playing under Neil Warnock that he turned up late and he wasn't the most conscientious trainer. But what a player on the pitch so far. Wow. He literally repeated his performance against Southampton, against Manchester United. And, he brings us an extra level of height, of strength, of aerial ability in our own box. Might be tempted to play him against Liverpool, especially if you think about they're going to have Van Dijk coming forward for set pieces. Just been very, very impressed with Jed Spence. And if he is to play against Liverpool, would you keep him in on the left-hand side ahead of Udogie, or would you start him ahead of Porro? It's an interesting one. Let me know what you think in the comments. Archie Gray, I want to talk about a bit more as well. What a Rolls Royce he is. 18 years old. What an absolute Rolls Royce of a player that boy is. Money well spent. Johan Lange and Scott Munn getting a lot of stick only a few weeks ago about spending so much money on such a young kid. But are you all starting to see the benefit now? Oh my God. Archie Gray will benefit so much in the long run from this period of games where he's playing every single match, and he will be until the new year at centre-back. And he looks like a pure centre-back. Everything all in front of him. He loves to see the game, reads it really well, knows where his defensive line is on that 18-yard box, marks pretty well, he puts his foot in, he reads it, intercepts passes, and got 2 vital blocks yesterday. One with his head, one with his foot in front of Fraser Forster, both from Christian Eriksen shots on the edge of the box. So he's brave. Wow. What a signing. What a signing. And reports coming out this week that Manchester City talked to him before Spurs went in. Obviously, he was close to joining Brentford. So to know that Man City were interested in him just shows what an absolute talent he is. And he just looks so grounded. I love the way, like I mentioned earlier, willing to take some responsibility for what happened with Fraser Forster, saying to Forster, I think it was probably my fault with the pass I gave you. He'll learn from that. Fantastic young player. I remember seeing him in pre-season when he played for at centre-back for us in one of those pre-season games, or 2 of them maybe. And I just thought, this player really likes to have the game all in front of him, to see everything and be able to play his passes that way. And he's just so relaxed on the ball. So impressed with him. Let me know what you think about Archie Gray in the comments. Let's move on to Dominic Solanke. £60 million starting to look like a bit of a steal, isn't it? He is a proper poacher, proper goal scorer. I've talked so much in these videos all season about his back-to-goal play, his hold-up play, which was, again, absolutely mesmeric at times yesterday. Do you know how hard holding the ball up is when you've got a big, nasty little defender in your back like Lindelof or like Martinez, who's a little pincher, isn't he? It's so difficult, but he was holding it up in that final third so well, and then coming into midfield and bringing other people into play. That's what he's been doing brilliantly all season. But the other thing I've been saying is when we make him chances, he will score goals. And that first finish was fantastic on the half volley, in off the inside post. Very difficult finish. And the second one, held it up nicely, drew the defender, beat him, bottom left-hand corner. He's got everything at the moment, Solanke, and he is the player we need to keep fit. That is for sure. But so impressed with him. I'm going to move on to Radu Dragusin, really coming on, I think, now as a defender. He's been absolutely vital to this Tottenham Hotspur side over the last month. And maybe not surprising, that has coincided with his agent shutting up as well, which is really important. I just think, again, looking like more money well spent. 30-odd million pounds for him. Third choice centre-back. And we've got injuries, so he's getting a lot of run of games. And he's getting rhythm in, and he's showing... What I loved about him more than anything last night, relatively early on, he went up for a headed challenge with Højlund, who's a big striker, tall-wise, and he loves to win a flick on. Nothing. Dragusin just ploughed straight through him, took the ball with his head, took Højlund with the rest of his body after the ball had gone. And just a fantastic kind of letting you know that I'm here challenge from Radu Dragusin. And that kind of set a bit of a tone for Spurs. And one of the reasons we're 3-0 up, United were popping it about pretty nicely, especially in the first half. But they never kind of cut us open, I didn't think. They never looked like they were going to get in behind, especially. Porro did some good one-on-one defending, as did Dragusin, actually, to stop that from happening, getting their bodies in the right position. But in terms of like the aerial stuff and the physicality, that is something that, you know, Spurs aren't really renowned for, but Dragusin's bringing that a bit in. And like I said with Jed Spence, I think, in terms of our signings going forward, we need to think about the physicality involved, as well as them being able to play handball, but also, can they get involved in the rough and tumble of the Premier League, or in this instance, the Carabao Cup. And I thought Dragusin was excellent yesterday, and the way that he and Archie Gray are helping each other through this time of playing centre-back with one another. Obviously, Dragusin's more experienced, but he's only 23 himself. Archie Gray's 18, so he's helping that kid, and they're keeping their line really well. Neither one of them is kind of dropping off. There was one occasion yesterday where United got in into the box on the right-hand side with Mazraoui, when he cut back onto his left foot and nearly scored at the far post. That would have made it 3-3. But if you notice in that attack, from what I remember of it, the 18-yard defensive line that the coaches insist that we keep, Dragusin and Archie Gray were both there. It was actually Pape Matar who had dropped maybe 2 yards, and that kept Mazraoui onside and nearly led to that equaliser. So that is a bit of props for both Dragusin and Archie Gray. I want to talk about Deki Kulusevski very briefly, just because he's so good now that I basically hardly mention him. His performances are to be expected, and that is when players raise their game to another level. That is what Gareth Bale started to do. They're different players, but in terms of, could Kulusevski be a genuine world football superstar? I think he could, and he'd be quite a rare one as well, because a lot of the superstars these days, they're all really quick, as well as being skillful. But Kulusevski is a powerhouse, and that's more of a kind of throwback. But he's playing so well that I, like I said, hardly mention him. And for me, if you're Daniel Levy, and obviously, you know, you've had a difficult night last night because all the fans are chanting the Kulusevski positive, Levy negative song. But if you're Daniel Levy right now, you sign up Kulusevski to a new contract, because he will be worth a lot of money going forward further down the line. So sign him up whilst he's relatively young at this point. Do what he did so well, Daniel Levy. One of the things I will always give him credit for is when that Pochettino side started doing really well, he recompensed them with new contracts and money raises and bonuses pretty early. And he's got to do the same now with Kulusevski, in my opinion. Obviously, Spurs now next play Liverpool in the Carabao Cup semi-finals. Really interesting, the dates of those matches, actually. The first leg will be on the week commencing the 6th of January, so pretty soon, just after Christmas. But, well, I'll go into who we should have fit back for that. Second leg, though, is a month later at Anfield, the week commencing 3rd of February. So for the first leg, based on what Anne just said in the last week or two, we could have Van der Ven back, possibly Romero. Davies should be back by then. But then the second leg, because it's a month later, I think that really helps Tottenham Hotspur. We could have a much cleaner bill of health with our injuries. So maybe, weirdly, the fact that, whereas usually you'd say you want to play the home leg second, actually, in terms of us getting a better squad back, it might benefit us that we play at Anfield second, when we'll have a stronger team available. So I think that's a positive. Let me know if you agree with that, but I had a good look at it, and I think that's probably right. For me, because it's Liverpool and they're going to be, you know, top of the league or thereabouts in the next round of the Champions League. The FA Cup will have started by then as well. They will rotate for sure, Liverpool. They will rotate, and therefore I don't think Liverpool in a two-leg semi-final is a bad draw for us. I think it would have been a worse draw for us to play Liverpool in the final, where they probably wouldn't have rotated. So I think it's a good draw. I think Newcastle in the two-legged semi would have been the worst draw for Spurs. Going up to St James's Park, that would have been an absolute nightmare. And also, that first leg being with a lot of injuries. And also, more than that, Newcastle just on a similar level to Spurs and their fan base, but even more, because they haven't won a trophy for something like 60 years. I think Newcastle would have been the worst two-legged semi-final draw. However, if we can get through Liverpool, if we could, and maybe Newcastle would play against a rotated Arsenal in that two-legged semi, and also I fancy Newcastle to blow away an Arsenal reserve team at St James's Park. This could well be, and look, I hope I'm not jinxing it, but we could end up here with a kind of trophy pressure final, Tottenham against Newcastle, and there'll be a lot of memes about it and a lot of fans taking the piss. Paddy Powell take the piss, like, will it be possible that both teams manage not to lose this game, not to win this game somehow? There'll be all of that. However, the one team probably that have more pressure on them to win a trophy than Tottenham are Newcastle, and that could play into our hands in terms of the pressure that will be on that game. I think a lot of it would be on both teams, but Newcastle would probably have more pressure. And one thing I would say about the positivity of Ange Postecoglou and his insistence of us playing the football in a certain way, this attacking way where it's muscle memory, I'd fancy us more at Wembley under Ange in a weird way, because we would continue to play in this one, very forward-thinking way. And I don't know. I've got a bit of a weirdly good feeling about it, but let's see what happens. Like I said, first leg, 6th of January that week. Second leg, 3rd of February. Okay, let's go into some quotes from Big Ange Postecoglou. Before I do, please do give this video a like if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to 12,000 subscribers. I'm about 150 away, guys. Let's get me up to 12,000 subs. And also listen to this on the podcast platforms, be it Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your pods. Just type in the Spurred On podcast for my daily content. So Ange said the following: I can't speak highly enough of this group of players. Again, tonight we had 10 players from our list unavailable for one reason or another. Yet still, we're not just getting through games, we're in fact maintaining our level of football. As I keep saying, we'll get to some smoother waters at some point, but this period is going to see us have enormous growth. Exactly what I was saying. I should also mention, apparently Timo Werner was ill yesterday, so it wasn't it wasn't like an Ange being livid with him reason for him not being on the bench. But yes, in terms of the growth of the young squad through this period of games and how it will stand us in good stead going forward, I completely agree with him. And to be doing so well with 10 players out. Look, United, they made 5-6 changes. It was a mix and match squad, but they have the new manager bounce. They'd just beaten Man City away, and Spurs had 10 players out. So it's a really huge win for Tottenham Hotspur. Ange, on being asked if his tactics are causes for the errors of Fraser Forster, he said, "You're suggesting that in those situations I tell players to make those mistakes. I don't. There are situations where we don't need to do that." And there, I think he's talking about what I mentioned earlier. He's talking about the defenders putting Forster in a very difficult position. And I like the fact that he came out and didn't throw Forster under the bus. Just a little stat, Deki Kulusevski, who I'm obviously waxing lyrical about earlier, he's now scored 4 goals in 4 games. He's absolutely on fire and doing as well on the right-hand side now as he was earlier in the season centrally. So that's another good option for Ange. And also, do you know what I love about this last couple of games? Brennan Johnson has been able to have a good rest. And Johnson was one of the players who looked most leggy over the last few months. He's looked really tired. Weirdly, even kind of like facially looked kind of gaunt, like he's just got nothing in the tank. And so I think this rest for Brennan Johnson will be a big benefit for him. And I do wonder, maybe against Liverpool, where there should be some space in behind them, whether Brennan Johnson may come back into the side, Kulusevski goes centrally, and James Maddison comes off the bench. Let me know if you think that's likely in the comments. Dominic Solanke said the following: being 3-0 up, we could have dealt with the game better, killed some time, but we made it hard for ourselves. That's football sometimes. We dug in, we showed spirit, we got the job done. Andrew was asked about Dom Solanke. He said this: he's been outstanding. What he gives the team beyond just his goals is unbelievable. We would love to give him a rest, but he just keeps going and going, and it's a credit to him and all the boys. And that comment about wanting to give Solanke a rest, I think, is why Tottenham are being heavily linked with forwards in this run-up, to the January transfer window. Obviously, the Jonathan David talk won't go away, that Spurs have made him a big kind of pre-contract offer to try and get him in on a free in the summer. And it does look to me like the areas of the pitch where Spurs are really looking to bring in players are a centre-half who can also play left-back and a forward who can probably play anywhere across that front line to try and give Solanke some rest. Now that Big Ange Postecoglou is really managing the minutes of Son Heung-min a lot more, that means Sonny it's not as clear that he can just come in and play 9 every so often. And as we've seen, Sonny just can't do that hold-up play in the 9 either. Speaking of which, Sonny said about his goal from the corner, that's the first goal I've scored directly from a corner since elementary school, basically primary school. I did say when watching a highlights thing with my girlfriend, maybe that's the only thing that Son Heung-min hasn't done at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club before, score a goal direct from a corner. Do you think he was shooting? Or do you think he was just trying to get a lot on it to put pressure at the back post? Either way, it was something that maybe they'd pinpointed, because they did, I think Kulusevski had one in the first half where it nearly went over the keeper into the far top corner, and then Sonny did that. So, maybe that's our newfound set piece assistant manager seeing something in that reserve keeper that we haven't seen before. Let's move just briefly onto that Liverpool game then, and my prediction for it. I think it'll be very difficult. Of course it will. Virgil van Dijk is back in the form of his career. And Liverpool just look really good. They've got great players kind of all throughout. Gravenberch, who I've always liked, is now really playing beautiful stuff. Obviously, Mo Salah is again in the form of his life. Trent and Mo Salah and Van Dijk not signing new contracts, but it's not letting it affect their form. So look, they will make chances and they're clinical. They've got Jota. Nunez will probably score against us, even though he's not been that clinical this season so far, but it just feels like that's the kind of script where you're like, oh God, he misses every chance against somebody else, but he'll probably score against Spurs. But I think, like I said earlier, I think we'll make lots of chances too. And I also think we'll have learnt, hopefully, from that Chelsea game where we were far too open when we went 2-0 up. If we could get a good start, I think we could do it. The crowd will be up for it, and maybe we can win 3-2. That's what I'm saying. Either that, and I've written here, either that or we'll get marmalised. So look, let's see what happens. But imagine if we could get a good result going into Christmas. We've got a difficult game then over Christmas, Nottingham Forest away, and they're playing well. But listen, let's get the crowd right up for it. Let's be really loud against Liverpool. They're top of the league. They're walking it at the moment. So let's put a little sting in the tail for them. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the start of your Friday after that huge win last night. A crazy Tottenham Hotspur journey once again, but that's what Spurs are about. That's what Ange Postecoglou is about, and it's fun watching the team. It's just fun watching them. Even when it's not fun, it's fun. Guys, like I said, please do give this video a like. Please subscribe to my channel. Let's get me up to that 12,000 subscriber mark. I really appreciate all your support, and try and enjoy your weekend as we get ready for that Liverpool game. Come on, you Spurs.